Hi there, and welcome to an introduction to the LimeSpot Personalizer. My name is Will, and I work with the LimeSpot customer success team. We're excited to show you how you can add boxes, change global and box-specific settings, as well as set up manual cross-sell and upsells today. To start, please log into the LimeSpot app from your e-commerce platform. When you do, you should arrive at a page that looks similar to what you're seeing. When you arrive on this page, please click Personalization and then Website Personalization to arrive at this specific page. If you scroll down on this page, you'll notice that there's a Quick Edit section. This is a way for you to determine which boxes are on which pages at a glance if you need to. Once you've taken a look there, please click the Designer button to enter the actual designer. As you can see here, the designer pulls in your theme from your e-commerce provider and allows us to place and change settings based off of what you're looking for with your LimeSpot setup. First, let's take a quick look at the global settings that are available to you within the designer. The first section that we have for global settings is General. Within this section, you have the option to enable and disable a sale tag, change the shape of the sale tag, as well as change the position of the sale tag on the image. You can also change the order of the prices that you see on the products. You can change the way that the products act when you hover on them. You can add user ratings from apps that provide ratings that we are integrated with, and the same with loyalty points. So there's a lot of cool features that you can integrate with these LimeSpot carousels. In the colors section, you're going to have total control over the colors of the various words that you see on the carousels. So we can change the box title, the product title, the price, the original price, the sale tag, and the add to cart button, as well as the next and previous buttons. Let's make a quick little change to see what we can do. So if we were to change the box title to red and hit OK, we can now see that the box titles are red and it reacts immediately. Same with the product title. If we were to change it to blue, it changes to blue immediately. This works for the price and the sale tag and add to cart as well, and it's a really easy way to make a ton of changes across the website because all of these changes will cascade down to each one of the carousels. Next, we have the typography section. This section allows you to control the font, the size, and the weight of all writing that you see across the boxes. So for example, we see here recently viewed items. This is the box title at 36px. If we were to switch it down to 20px, you can see that it gets a lot smaller. We can also change the alignment to left or to right or back to center. You can also change the font and weight and size of the product title, the product prices, the sale sign, and the add to cart box. Again, this is a really easy way to make a change on all of your boxes at one time, and a really cool way to make a lot of updates very quickly. Next, we have the image section. This image section is really important because this particular section here controls the size of all images on the website. So whatever sizes are here are going to be the default sizes that we're going to try to apply to your images. Here as well, you can change the amount of items per page. We can put it up to 8. If we take a look down here, or we can move it down to 6, and it changes based off of that, and it will change the width and height. As well, you can change the spacing between items here. It's set at 40 as a default, and you can also change the corner radius of the images. As you can see now, the images have rounded corners. As well, you can change how the hover works for these images. So if we chose show second image, if there's a second image for these products, when your customers hover on them, they're going to see that product. So in general settings here, the second last section is navigation. Pretty simple section here. There's two options in mode, which is appear in place and pop out. These are both in relation to these arrows that you see here. So appear in place means that they're always going to appear. Pop out means that they're going to hang out a little bit, and when you hover on the actual carousel, they'll move outwards so that you can see them. You can also set up an auto scroll and change the default arrow that you use for your carousels right here as well. And the final section that we see in the global settings is quick actions. So quick actions has to do with the add to cart button. There's 3 modes for the add to cart button. There's disabled, where you won't see it, and when you click on the product, you're going to go to the product page. There's overlay on hover, where the button only appears when you hover on the product. Or there's always display, which has the product always show up. You can also change what the title says here by saying add me. And you can change what happens when the button is clicked. So right now it's set to quick view dialog. When we click add me, this quick view dialog pops up with details about the product and the ability to add it to the cart. If we were to change this to drop down, instead what happens is you can see the variants for the product pop out of the add to cart button and need to be selected, and then the product is added to the cart. You can also change what happens when a product is added to the cart here. You can have the page reload, you can have the customer go to the cart page, or you can have a notification that pops up in the top right-hand corner that says a product has been added to the cart. So these are the global settings, and these are a really good thing to be doing as your first thing that you do when you've imported your theme. This way you have the base settings for your styling set up, and it will make the adjustments that you have to make later a little bit easier. All right, so next we're going to talk about how to add a box onto a specific page. If you take a look on the left here, we've got this drop-down. In this drop-down, all of these different selections are different templates that exist within your theme. So what this means is when you select one of these pages and you make changes to that page, every page that has that page type is going to have the same setup on your page. So this means that you only have to set up your products once, your collections once, your cart page once, and every cart, collection, and product page will have that same setup. So let's go to the product page, and let's add a box. And the way we do that is by clicking Add Box here on the left-hand side. So let's add a new arrivals box. Awesome, let's take a look. All right, so we see new arrivals has now appeared on the page down at the bottom. Let's take a look at the box specific settings that are available. So general is very similar, but it's going to have basically the general settings for this particular box. We can change the title to new stuff. You can also change the style from a carousel to a grid. So instead of going left to right, it's going to go up and down in a grid form. You can change the number of items from anywhere from 1 to 100. And this determines how many items are in the carousel to scroll to. And then you can also determine the scope. So this scope is related to the new arrivals algorithm. So it's basically saying, what do I want to look at for new arrivals? And we want to look at the entire store. We can also choose the items collection to display new arrivals in that collection specifically. Now let's take a quick look at the audience. So audience is something that you can set up when you have audience segments set up to basically show and hide different boxes to different audiences. It's a bit more advanced, and we'll cover that in a future video. Now for the box specific settings, these settings will overtake the global settings if you do choose to set them up. As you can see here, it is inheriting the global settings, but you're able to edit these here for this specific box. It's basically the exact same settings that you'll see in general, but it will change the settings for this box specifically. As you can see here, the new stuff box has inherited 6 items per page, but if we change it to 2, it will change it back to 2. Or if we change it to 4, it'll change it to 4. So it's really important to note that box specific settings are going to overtake global settings. Navigation, again, the exact same options as you see in the global settings, and again, these will override the global settings. Quick actions, the same thing. The only difference here is that you can change the button specifically for this setup. Now, the big difference between global and box specific settings is this placement box. So this placement box is how you can move carousels around on your page. What you can basically do is select a method, insert before, insert after, or replace. So let's choose insert before. And what we're going to do is we're just going to click on this bullseye, and then we're going to select the section that we want it to be before. So let's say that we want the new arrivals to be before the footer. They're now going to be locked on the footer using this sibling. And then we can also add CSS classes such as page width, to pull the page width CSS settings onto it. Also, sometimes wrapper will work, and that's how you can make it look like the rest of your website. So these are the specific box settings, and again, it's important to note that these box settings will override both global settings and page specific settings, because there is a third set of settings that would apply specifically to the product page, and these are the same settings that you see on the actual box, but it's going to change again specifically. These will overtake the global settings, and then the box specific settings will overtake the page settings. Awesome. So we've gone through adding a box, we've gone through the global settings, we've gone through the product, we've gone through the page-specific settings, we've gone through the box-specific settings. Now, how do we remove a box from a page? Well, that's going to be a lot easier than a lot of the stuff we've already done. To remove a box from a page, you're going to go ahead and click this little trash can on the box. And when you do, this is going to remove it. The good news is if you make a mistake, that box will retain all of the settings that you previously had, so you can return it and it's going to show right back up like it was before. Now, one last cool piece of advice is around checking your work before you actually publish it to your website. So when you're working on your website, you're obviously going to want to check out that the changes you're making are having the impact that you want on the live website. But we don't want to publish that on the live website before it happens. Luckily, LimeSpot has this really cool option to save and open the store using these 3 dots. And when you do that, you can see that there's some extra parameters that have been added here onto the domain. When you arrive at this page, simply copy the extra parameters. And then what you can do is you can travel to any page on your website and re-add the parameters to it to preview the changes that you've made without publishing the page. This is a really cool way for you to check your work and make sure that we don't create any issues on the website before we make things live. Alright, so let's head back to the designer for one more piece of information. Okay, so there's a particular type of box called a cross-sell, which is this goes with box, as well as an upsell box that you see right here. Right here. So a really cool part of LimeSpot is we allow you to make manual associations on your products. So if we go here to personalization and we click upsell cross-sell, we're going to see 2 options, collections and products. Let's take a quick look at collections first. Okay, so what upsells and cross-sells allow you to do is associate collections to collections or products to products. And when you make these associations, what's going to happen is that if you set up a cross-sell or an upsell box, the products that appear in those boxes are going to be the products that you have associated to each other. Let's look at an example of associating a collection with a collection. For example, we're going to click on gloves here, and then we're going to select this box. And then you can see here that there's already a collection that's been associated with 14 products. It's associated with upsell as well as cross-sell. Let's associate another collection by clicking the plus button. And then we'll select this shirts collection by clicking the box here and hitting add selected items. Once that's done, click apply to selected items to complete the setup. So now, whenever a product from the gloves collection appears on a product page or cart page, the products from these 2 collections will be prioritized to show in the cross-sell and upsell boxes. This can also be done at the product level for a more specific setup. For example, let's say that you have this snowboard binding, and you know that this snowboard binding sells with 3 specific products really well. Let's search for a couple of snowboards. No snowboard. Oh, spelled it wrong. No snowboard. There we go. So these snowboards. Okay, so because this is at the product level, whenever this cartel snowboard binding appears in either the cart or the product page, and there's a cross-sell or upsell box, these 2 products will now be specifically shown whenever this is available. So if you have a good idea of what products sell well together or what products you want to make sure your customers see to be upsold, this manual upsell and cross-sell process is a really excellent way to set it up. Awesome. So today we've gone through the global settings, the page settings, and the box level settings for LimeSpot recommendations. We've also gone through the process of adding and removing boxes on specific pages. We've reviewed how you can preview the work that you've done in the designer, and we've also reviewed how to manually upsell and cross-sell products and collections to each other. With this knowledge, you should be able to get a good setup of your initial integration of LimeSpot. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out in the chat in the designer or to send us an email if you have any help that you need. Thank you so much and have an excellent day.